Welcome one more day to Enharmony. Today I'm going to speak about the different spheres of communion with our true being, different forms of communication with our essential self, something which is very important to understand so we can allow our divine essence to manifest spontaneously and grow in full potential, facing life situations intelligently. It's true that nowadays different types of spirituality speak about connecting with the true self, manifesting reality from the unconscious, using the law of attraction and all these things. There is even a French theorist known as Jean-Pierre Garnier-Mallet who suggests the existence of a sort of alter ego that we have. He calls it a quantum double, which is a multidimensional being, like a wave, that is in contact with the past, the present, and the future. So this being would be able to see all our timelines and communicate to us the way to the best futures in order to attract the best version of ourselves. Some people even make exercises before sleeping, sending commands into the unconscious. So this quantum double solves problems or manifests some sort of solution, bring new ideas into mind, and so on. And to me, this is the modern version of praying to the Holy Spirit before sleeping, even without kneeling down in pyjama on the floor. And I'm not saying there is no truth in all this. However, in all these visions, we can see a sort of mixture of truth and falsehood that can lead to error very easily. First of all, connecting with something that knows details of possible futures or has surprising information from Akashic records is not guarantee of truth, because there are false guides and also altered archives. The Akashic records are not necessarily true. There are true and false Akashic records. And definitely the divine soul can connect with timelines and guide us because it's our true being. But our essence is not quantum. It does not belong to space-time. Quanta are packages of energy, measure units that have nothing to do with our true being. Our soul cannot be measured at all, it's infinite, we might say. So it's very advisable to approach our being with the scheme of the Tree of Lives, the divine soul imprint. And even more complete is to see this from the viewpoint of the Master, whether you call him Yeshua, Yeshua, Yoshua, Yesu. The name we pronounce, those code names, is useless unless we are in contact with the higher mind and have understanding. Because even divine intelligence through him said that he was not just a person, he said he was the tree itself. I am the vine and you are the branches, Netzarim in Hebrew. Now, traditionally, Hebrew wisdom considers that there are different degrees of communion or devekut with the holy being. Some would say Elohim, the natural divine forces. And sages usually say that one can be a slave of Elohim, a servant of Elohim, bride of Elohim, brother of Elohim, friend of Elohim, or wife of Elohim. However, in general, Jewish sages and other Kabbalists go from bottom to top in the Sephirotic tree. However, when we adopt the viewpoint of the universal Messiah, then we assume that we already belong to the body of conscience, and then we are already united. We are not moving from bottom to top or even from top to bottom. We are rather uniting above and below and manifesting from the center, which is everywhere. We have divine will and divine conscience at our disposal already, and with this divinity we manifest a true personality, not alter egos of any kind, not even quantum doubles. We are an atom of the one in us. So we only have to discover ourselves and allow this divine essence to manifest through us. In general, we can say that people are slaves of Elohim, of natural powers, unbridled forces that very few understand, such as the serpent, Nahash, which is an insatiable desire full of pride and a desire for destruction because there is frustration. However, this is also a potential for transformation. Pride is the mud or the rock covering a brute diamond. This is why many Kabbalists say that this kingdom of death, known as Malkut, contains the seed of life. This would be the Shekinah in potential, asleep Shekinah. The divine presence is not awakened yet. And this is why Yeshua came to say that we have to find the Malkut Hashamayim, the kingdom of heaven within us, which should be translated as the fundamental sphere of the divine soul. Neshama and Hashamayim have the same geometric value, which is 395. And once we enter the foundation of the tree of life, then we are no longer slaves of Elohim, even though there are rulers that use people in their purposes. But we are not just a resource. When we are under the wings of the Spirit of life, we are one with the Holy Being. And in this connection with the tissue of universal life, we are rather servants of Elohim because we perform an inner work that harmonizes energies and releases positive energies. This is an act of loving service. And obviously, nature benefits from this work. And there are beings from nature that come to help us when we manifest our divinity, so to say. Because we transform negative energy into positive energy, even the so-called serpent, which becomes a purified vital light. We make a divine receptacle with it. And this is the so-called Shekinah, the divine presence. This is how the Shekinah wakes up, bringing serenity, stability, even good smells. The rose scent comes from this sublimation of energy. And this inner work is represented with the sphere of Od in the Sephirotic tree. In this diagram you can see it very well. And Od means splendor, but it also means consciousness and discipline, because in this sphere we are turning on the lights of the inner house, as in the parable of the woman who had 10 coins and she turns the lights and sweeps the house in order to find the one that got lost. And we can guess that the one coin missing is the divine seed in Malkut. And when we find it and work to release it, then we find the other 9 coins coming to meet us. And we must also realize that the key are the 3 missing spheres of the tree of life, which would make a total of 13, because all begins with the wholeness of the Holy One, from which a will or ratzon is emanated, opening the space of Keter, making possible the display of divine conscience, which is that Elyon. So we basically have to start manifesting divine will. Even the Master said to Lazarus, stand up and walk. And setting ourselves to work means that we have to know each part of the body and the mind, how they relate with the emotions, seeing how negative thoughts trigger negative emotions and chaotic actions, why eating a lot generates depression, especially unhealthy food. We have to find out also why we lose vitality, all the energy leakages. And when we allow this work of consciousness to take place in ourselves with humility, then we move towards the emotional harmonization that takes place naturally and elevates our frequency of vibration. And this is Netzach, the sphere of success. And in the Torah, Netzach was symbolized by Moshe, or was symbolized by Aaron, and Yesod's vital imaginative energy was represented by Joseph, who had, as you might know, a multicolor mantle, which alludes to the colors of the energy body that has been purified. It's part of the Shekinah. This sphere was actually represented by the maiden in the tower in several myths, and the so-called Migdal Eder, the watchtower of the flock which are our thoughts and emotions, because the maiden can contemplate from the distance on the tower. Serene, a bride she is, but there is no full expression of the mind of light, but it's already there in seed. And now notice how the triangle Netzach Ot Yesod points down towards Malkut, because when energy is not refined, there is desire for material things, attachment to the material world. But when there is a sublimation, then the desire goes up inwards. This is the formation of the so-called vortex or Merkabah, the vehicle that elevates us, pointing towards universal consciousness, that you can see it in the diagram. This is what raises up our vibration. And when the desire turns inwards, leading to an emotional elevation, we get to Tiferet, the sphere of beauty, which is also a sphere of self-recognition, because we begin to feel as a divine emanation, finding all the positive qualities that we bring from our source in the primordial Father. Virtues such as conscious love, compassion, calm, and also union with the divine mind. Tiferet is also associated with Israel. However, when we get to this state, there are dark forces that see the light that is growing, and they immediately generate chaos in order to reduce our level of vibration, because light is a threat to them. And when they cause chaos, friction begins, the inner Armageddon. Sometimes we even accentuate that friction because we have established contracts with those dark forces if we accept what they present to us. In ancient myths, this war was represented with struggles between brothers, Enki versus Enlil, and obviously Jacob against Esau. Jacob even fought against the inner man, his own Elohim, and when he defeated him, he received the name of Israel, which means Yashar El, effort towards El. Israel also means conqueror of lunar forces, Isis, the goddess Isis, solar forces, Ra, and planetary forces, El. And obviously this victory can only take place in Tiferet, the self-recognition. We do not conquer by fighting. We are not fighting against evil because that leads to duality. We are always establishing ourselves in the middle column, where there is no duality. In the tree of life, there is oneness, unicity. We are not even accusing the rulers, the archons. Other beings fight for us. We admit there are forces generating this matrix, but we are not condemning them, they condemn themselves. True serenity in us calms down all struggle. And then we make friends with Elohim, the natural forces. We see the oneness of all things. And the sphere that corresponds to this state is Chesed, mercy, abundance, which was represented by the stories of Abraham. He was actually known as the friend of Elohim. Not by chance, the book Sefer Yetzirah was attributed to him. That book shows the relationship of all things in the matrix, the four elements, the days of the week, months, the Hebrew letters, which are the DNA of the so-called creation, which is the matrix, the Sephirotic spheres, and so on. But that scheme is incomplete because it doesn't have the vision of the universal Messiah. And as we know, the God, or the Elohim of Abraham, was El Shaddai, the providing nature, which in this delusion, this matrix, is part of duality. That matrix God, or demiurge, is the object of worship in all religions, and also quantum theories, which do not know the original cosmos, in which there is no fragmentation, there is no quantum matrix. Oneness below is only a shadow of unicity above. And we can only understand this with the universal mind, that Elyon, the universal conscience that unites intuitive wisdom, which is stepping aside from all destruction, all evil, and understanding, Binah. Chokmah and Binah, wisdom and understanding. Understanding gives us the sense of merging opposites, integration. And this is basically the communication between the right and left hemispheres of the universe and also in ourselves. What brings the understanding of our deep communion with the Holy Being. So we are not the wife of Elohim, as some Jewish Kabbalists would say, because in oneness there is no longer man, woman, up and down, right or left. There is rather a dynamic flow of life where all space-time references have disappeared. Our deepest self is sitting on heavenly regions and guides us when we hear his silent voice, listening to intuitions, having some visions even. And this is how we can perceive other timelines and other existences maybe, but without being caught up in them. And all this is basically the communion with the higher centers of conscience. The contemplative heart, where there is serene intelligence awakening, where the mind and body of the Son of Man begin to express together. And then we have the mind of light that belongs to this new humanity within us, which connects us to the ocean of primordial light, to the Father. I already told you about memories that I have from childhood, where I saw myself floating in an ocean of light without understanding. So I understand now that we come here to develop this light seed. But in that vision, my body was asleep. Even though I think that Yeshua was able to communicate with the primordial light, with the Father, but he was an expression of that state of conscience known as Yehidah, the union with the Source. I and the Father are one. And we are still trying to make stable the state of Hayah, life, unifying the Neshama, the understanding, the Nefesh, the vital soul, and the Ruach, that is the emotional personality emerging from both. And obviously the communion with our true being. requires the cultivation of silent attention, awareness, harmonizing body, mind, and emotions, or even visualizing with true imagination. I personally find very useful to sit every morning in a stable position, listening to intuitions, harmonizing thoughts, relaxing different parts of the body and releasing. There are many functions to be performed, but we have to be very humble, receiving everything that we have been given, everything that we are destined to manifest on earth. Blessed we were on heavenly places, said Paul. Everything that we need is already in our divine soul, but we have to unfold it. And this can only be done with will and conscience, two of the three missing spheres in the Sephirotic tree. But all this should not be turned into a sort of rigid method or routinary technique, because life must flow spontaneously. It's our inner tree growing. And for today, I think we have already enough information to ponder. I will write this on the blog. I'm also expanding the section Vision in the web, even though I'm still translating from the Spanish. I will add some relevant information about themes that I have been touching: the gestation of the divine soul, how it's different from the trap of reincarnation. I'll also be clarifying what is the so-called twin soul, are there twin souls, and different other subjects. And meanwhile, thank you very much for listening with attention. And as always, blessings of unconditional love and modified life, unified conscience, and blissful serenity.